welcome to episode 10 of the Dishy Switch Podcast, your one-stop shop for local and international ultimate, local being South African. This week we do something different again, so hold on to your seats for that one. If you like what we do here, please follow us on Instagram. You can find us there at Dishy_Switch. Please give this video a like and subscribe if you like what we do. Hit the notification bell so you are notified when we post new videos. And with the intro out of the way, I switched to Dol for the news.
Hey everyone. So, Ultimate in South Africa is looking kind of positive at the moment. Leagues have started quite well. Swinburne just happened in the Gauteng region, and currently I'm looking at potentially organizing a Cape Town tournament. So, anyway, and yeah, Nationals is signed off and booked for the 19th and 20th of Nationals. I'm pretty sure I have that right.
Of June, yeah.
Of Nationals, I say. Anyway, of June. Yeah, so that's going to be a good time. From what I know, it's going to be a 16-team tournament. People have responded well to that. And yeah, it's currently looking like it's going to be a good one. Going over to international news, the first thing to start with is College Nationals is said to be held in mid-December, which is going to be fairly interesting because that is mid-winter for them.
Yeah.
So some teams are going to be able to practice properly before that tournament, and some are going to have to practice in the snow.
Yeah, or indoors.
So, I mean, good luck to all of them. The next thing is there was an article recently written about the broken economics of tournament organizing, and it basically focuses on there's an American tournament that was organized with a 10,000 rand. 10,000 rand would be so little. $10,000 prize pool, which was 5,000 for the winning team, 3,000 for the second team, and 2,000 for the third team. Pretty cool to have almost like the first official paying tournament. I believe it was a 16-team tournament and it was invites only. But yeah, good kind of push in the right direction there. And I read it was a little bit more expensive, but of course that's the only way you can afford to, pay people to play.
Yeah.
And yeah, lastly, probably a little bit more of the contentious side is WCC, so World Ultimate Club Championships, is going to be held in Cincinnati again, which is not appreciated. I mean, a nice place in Europe, like Dublin, cheap to go to, would be really nice. Instead, send us to Cincinnati again and make us pay 70,000 rand to go. No, that's an exaggeration, but
feels like it.
Yeah, it feels like it could be 70k. So whichever team wins in South African Nationals for either open division or mixed division or women division, of course, they definitely should start saving sometime soon if you believe that your team is going, and get ready for the warmness, because from what I heard from the last WCC in Cincinnati, it got very hot while they were playing. So maybe slightly more of a priority this time to train a bit more in the sun.
They should just have it in Leko again.
I mean, yeah, let's get rained out again. That's a good idea.
Yeah, use helicopters to dry the field. I mean, that is awesome.
Well, now this time they can use helicopters to bring coolness to people because it's so hot.
Well, I suppose the Italians look at risk a little differently to the Americans.
But yeah, that's all the news that we have for today, and yeah, we'll keep you updated when we know about things.
So as mentioned in the intro, we're doing something a little different this week with Nationals confirmed for June and us being less than 2 months away. We thought it'd be a good thing to talk about tournament prep. So essentially not training during your season or training with your team, but rather what you can do as an individual starting from 2 weeks before the tournament. What to have in your bag, what to do when you're flying to the tournament, and how to have your best tournament, basically. Let's dive into that. So, as mentioned, we're talking about tournament prep, and I want to back it up a little before the tournament. So, rather than starting this conversation about what you can do when you busy putting on your cleats and getting ready for your first game on Saturday morning, freezing Highveld in June. Let's talk about how you can best prepare starting 2 weeks before the tournament. What's your thoughts there, Dol?
Yeah, so I think by that point you need to be pretty much finished everything that you want to learn. As a coach in that situation, I'd probably be focusing a bit more on kind of finalizing perhaps any pool plays to make sure that they're completely known by the team, and trying to just get as many reps and build those last combinations that we need. So hopefully organize a match between two teams, some kind of last thing, maybe some kind of social also to make sure that Team Gees is up. And I mean, yeah, hopefully by then everything is polished. So it's just, getting in those last reps of throws and, really not focusing too much on, these are the structures that we do and we're not doing it perfectly, because there's nothing much you're going to change by that point.
You're tapering, right? You're tapering for the tournament, basically.
Yeah, it's like the triangle we spoke about.
Exactly.
We're not here. We want to get to the top, right?
Exactly. You've built your base. Now you're just focusing it. I think I'll speak for. I think what's important for an individual, is to complement what you said as a coach, which I think is ideally you would play a tournament 2 weeks before. A warm-up tournament 2 weeks before you play a major tournament, just so you can go through the motions, because the motions of a tournament are so much different than training on a Saturday morning or playing league on a Monday night under lights. The strains and the stresses on your body and on your mind are different. So that is also something I think is important to practice and to prepare for. And one of the ways you can do that is the 2 weekends before the tournament, rather than just having your Saturday morning training with your team and that's it for the weekend, make sure you do something the Saturday afternoon as well, and then on the Sunday something in the morning and something in the afternoon. The idea there is that you get your body into the habit of switching on more than once a day, because up to then you've conditioned your body just to wake up for Saturday morning and training and performing, and then you get to recover the entire weekend before you play league on Monday night. But that's not how it's going to work at the tournament. So it doesn't have to be very strenuous. I mean, like Dylan said, that you're tapering for the tournament, but the idea is just to get you in your cleats and on a field, ideally, and get your heart rate up a little bit, even if it's just doing a warm-up, during the Saturday afternoon and doing some throwing or just some recovery running or something of the like, and then the same on Sunday. That will play a huge part on tournament weekend. So it's not a shock to your system when you have to wake up your body repeatedly on tournament days. And importantly for us who have to travel up to the Highveld, it's a strain already in our bodies to go up to altitude. So you want to limit the number of strains you put on your body and your mind. And one of the ways you can do that is to tournament simulate 2 weeks before the tournament. Anything you want to add there, Dol?
What does tournament simulate mean?
So it's basically for us, considering what our tournaments look like here for nationals, whereas you have a morning session, a lunch, or a bye, which is your break, and then an afternoon session. That is what you're trying to simulate. So once you've warmed up your first game on Saturday morning at a tournament, you pretty much keep going until you get to your lunch or bye, depending on what your schedule is, and then you have to switch back on. Now you've rested, you've recovered, now you need to get your body going again. So that's what you're trying to simulate, essentially.
Okay, cool. So basically everything that you just explained would be tournament simulation. Cool, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more to add. We've spoken about individual and from more of like a team perspective. So I think we could probably move back on to 1 week before the tournament. What are we doing?
Yeah. So I think for me personally, the weekend before the tournament, I'll do the same. So also tournament simulate, but less intensely. Because I personally like pushing myself pretty hard 2 weekends before, but the weekend before the tournament, it's just about just closing the story of what you've been building over the season. But it's that week that is really crucial. That's really what I think we need to chat about. So, how to run your week, things you need to get in order, and so on. So, what do you think about that, Dol?
Just before we start, I think during this particular season, something very important to do a week before is probably distance yourself from people. Only see the people that you have to. I mean, you don't want to, in the rare case, get COVID and have to cancel all your plans of going. So probably in this situation, I'd say one of the more important things to do is just socially distance. Don't go to any events that you don't have to, so that you ensure that you can participate as best you can at the tournament. Another thing that I have done before, and many other teams, is the Wednesday before. Chile sometimes does captain practices where the captains can go through things, whether that be playbook related or pool plays or our defenses. Another option is just to do a team social. Just make sure that you're ready as your team to, just have the relationships that you want to have built by then. And yeah, that's really the tapering part. So there's no real, I'm pushing myself 110% on the Monday before nationals. I mean, you may be playing a match on that Monday, and that's a little bit different. But at the same time, if you're playing a match as your whole team for a single match, probably 18 people in your team, you're not going to be playing too much in that match anyway. And yeah, I think one of the big focuses would be making sure that you're eating correctly. What that means for you, sometimes it means different things for different people. Make sure that you're drinking correctly. You don't want to get to the tournament already slightly dehydrated. One of the things is, I mean, currently I'm stealing from you here, but one of the things is making sure that you know your rules. I know that there was a player that I knew that printed out a little, like, A5 or smaller little book of the rules, so that when he was traveling up to the tournament, he just quickly had one last read of the rules, just to make sure that you know what you're talking about. And then hopefully by that stage your team is fully organized. You have everything in place in terms of the people that you know that you'll be supporting more. People call that different things. When we played in the South African men's team, we called it our mum butts. UCT would call it U-brews. So Chile used to call it your Chile chummy, I think. And these are the people that you're going to interact with more at the tournament, and really making sure that you're ready to interact with them properly. Learn what they want, learn how they want it, learn how to support them, have a conversation, maybe go out for a coffee, treat them, make them feel special.
Yeah, I mean, what you're touching on there, just to clarify for those who are not familiar with the system, it's called a micro community. So what you do is you subdivide the team into smaller groups, and these groups are assigned to each other. So people normally have two, 3 people. They can be called a buddy or a chummy or whatever the case may be. They look after each other in the week before the tournament and at the tournament. So they make sure that at the tournament, you catch your flight and you catch your taxi, and you drink enough and you have something to eat and mentally in a good place, and you know what field we're playing on and those kind of things. It's just from a leadership point of view, it's just an easy way to make sure the team looks after each other. Anything else you want to add there, Dol?
No, I mean, what would you do a week before?
I think Josh Zipperstein, to name drop, who is quite a big name in the US, he has this list of, when he was at Brown University, if I remember correctly, years ago, he made these posts that were put on the internet, which he would send out to his teammates of just tips on how to be a good senior player, essentially. And he had some for the week before the tournament. And one of my favorite ones is make sure you get the relationships in your life. This means work, personal, romantic, friends, family, whatever. Make sure you get them into a place that during the week before you go to the tournament, that at the tournament they don't distract you, that they don't need you to some degree. You want to focus on the tournament when you're at the tournament, and not think about that project you still need to do at work, or wait for some call from work or something of the like. Obviously, it's not always that easy, but that's the ideal. The ideal is you want to focus on having the best tournament personally, and also being the best teammate you can be. And that's one of the ways to get you there. I mean, some of the other things is pretty simple. Make sure you sleep enough, make sure you eat well, make sure you hydrate, make sure you do your stretches and your mobility work and so on. You mentioned the rules, which is obviously important. Another thing is just to go through the playbook again, your team's playbook, so whatever offenses and defenses and plays and stuff you use. You don't want to be in a place at a tournament where you have to think about what you need to do. It needs to be intuitive by the time you're at the tournament, where whenever the leadership calls something, it's just there. The programming's already there. Or you can just do what John McQuaid did, which is on our flight to Johannesburg, I think it was. I was sitting with the whiteboard and just going through all the plays. That's another way of doing it. And then I think the last one I want to raise is, before we move forward, is visualization is huge. I mean, if you want to prepare for a tournament well during the week before the tournament, one of the best ways of doing that is putting yourself in the things you're going to go through at the tournament the week before, and you can do that mentally. Whereas you just take 5 minutes or 10 minutes where you think about and visualize you being set up in, say, the vertical stack where you have to cut from here and here, and just go through that cut, go through, I'm pushing here, I'm looking for this, I'm clearing here, I get the disc, I'm going to try and set my pivot, I'm just make sure I take a deep breath, look up field. If it's not there, I'm going to activate my reset, those kind of things. Again, you don't want to throw yourself into a space where you're putting too much stress on yourself mentally or physically at the tournament. The tournament needs to be old news by the time you get to the tournament mentally, and that's how you get there, is by visualizing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Cool. If you're ready to move forward, let's talk about when you travel to a tournament.
So before we go to when you travel to the tournament, I will bring up a story of my past of traveling to a tournament. It's a great one.
Sure.
So okay. The year is 2015, and young Dylan is about to travel to London to go play under 23. At that stage it was under 23, now it's under 24. Of course, there's a few important things that you need to have when traveling, be it your ticket, to fly, probably some money so that you can pay for things, and your passport. It's probably a very important one. I traveled from Cape Town to East London before I was going to travel from East London back to East London back to Joburg, and then from Joburg fly. And 3 days or a week before the tournament, a week before I was going to leave, I went, where is my passport? Turns out I lost it. So I phoned my coach and said, hey, I might not be able to make the tournament. And then I headed through to Home Affairs and said I need an emergency passport, and turns out they can't do those anymore. You have to get a proper passport. And they said, cool, we can definitely do it in a week. Anyway, 2 days before we're gonna fly, I still didn't have a passport. Eventually,
sure.
I phoned the people I was living with, and I was like, did you look in this particular spot in my flat? Anyway, it was there.
In that pot?
No, sorry. The part in my house, not pot in my house.
I was like, that's quite random.
I don't leave my passports in my pots. Okay. I mean, it could be safe there, no one would look there. Anyway.
Not anymore.
So, yeah, then my next fear was, if they had fully commissioned my new passport, would my old passport still work?
Ooh, yeah.
So anyway, I got to the airport and I was like, please let me through, please let me through, please let me through. They let me through. So moral of the story is, don't lose your passport. Very important. Causes far too much stress in your life and your parents.
Yeah. Well, this time we're not traveling internationally, so.
I mean, it was just, it's a good time.
It's a life lesson. Yeah, we'll all improve because we listened to your little TED talk.
I mean, it's a funny story, and this is all about what people get to learn about me, is that I am a lost corp. Anyway, so when you're flying to a tournament, be it international or local, always pack your kit in your hand luggage. It's probably one of the most important things to do, because if your actual checked in luggage gets lost, you can still play the tournament. So what I do is I tie my cleats to my bag, to my hand luggage, because they don't care about that, and therefore it doesn't take space in my bag. And then anything I actually need while I play, I put in my hand luggage. So that's any kind of braces that I wear, that's my kit. That's like pants, one light, one dark, and probably like a hat. So very important, put those there. And then of course anything else that could be considered hand luggage that I don't know about. I don't know. You like to read, play games. I don't know if Corne, if you know anything else that you would put in your hand luggage.
Just gloves. I'll put my gloves in, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, I mean the point there is you if your check-in luggage, if something happens to it, that you can still play frisbee with your team. So you have your cleats and you have your kit and whatever else you need to play frisbee. That is probably the most important point of this entire podcast, to be fair. It's all downhill from here. I'm just trying to read my notes here. So where would you put in, we'll talk about check-in luggage and that kind of thing, I think in the next point. But before we do it, let's just talk about other things you can take along, like food and those kind of things.
So I think something that was highlighted in the podcast for Charisse was consistency in what you eat and drink. If you're used to having Future Life for breakfast every morning, every time that you train you have Future Life, you should probably be doing the same. So don't say, oh, when I get to Joburg or when I get to wherever my tournament is, I'm just going to go buy a bag of bananas and some yogurt. Are you used to eating a bag of bananas and yogurt for your tournament? Probably not.
Yeah.
So be consistent. If you have recovery drinks after your Wednesday practices or your Saturday practices, be that be any kind of whey, or be that I promote Pepto Pro because my sister is sponsored by them. Not paid, by the way. So be that any of that, make sure that you pack that in as well. That's essential for you to be able to play properly. Consistency, I think, there in that situation is key. If you're going to an international tournament where you know that things are going to cost a lot, in that situation, not only did I pack South African Future Life, I also packed syrup and peanut butter. So that I didn't have to spend as much money when I was there. Although at that stage I was a student, so who knows what would happen now.
Yeah, completely agree. I think, again, this is another, if you're gonna change your diet completely, and your rituals, so what you have for breakfast and that kind of thing, to get the best out of you, out of your body, wherever you stay, say in Cape Town for us, you're putting stress on your body because this is something different. Your body it's going to take it a while to figure out what to do with it. And again, you don't want to do that. You want to limit the number of stresses and so on you have on your system. And also having those rituals help a lot. So ideally, you don't want to leave buying things at the airport or at the venue or stuff like that, because there's no guarantee that you will be able to. Because I mean, the complication is you need to catch an Uber with someone else, and you need to get to the hotel, and you need to wara. And sometimes you just forget about it, or there is no time, and then you don't have breakfast, or you don't have whatever else you need. So that's something you can do during the week too, before you fly out, is just make sure that you have all the things you need in terms of electrolyte replacement and food and breakfast and so on, and in between meals, peanuts or whatever else you're going to use. And that your body is familiar with those. It's not the opportunity to try some kind of gel, energy gel you've never used before, or something like that. I mean, I learned that the hard way. I was a competitive mountain biker when I was in high school, and during one of the provincials, I tried a gel that I'd never used before, and I was throwing up during the race because my body is just not used to it and it didn't want it. And that obviously means you dehydrate, and that doesn't help you perform at your best. So don't try food and drink that you haven't tried at the tournament. If you want to try something new, try it 2 weeks before, at the latest, I think, at a training session or something. But I think in terms of what you need to have in your hand luggage and any stuff we can add there, I think that's pretty much it. Let's talk about what to have at the tournament to have your best tournament, in terms of what to have in your bag and those kind of things still.
Cool. I mean, just looking at this list that you prepared for us, I see that you wrote toilet paper.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is a story. Yeah. And I know the story, but who knows if the viewers know the story, so you should tell it to us anyway.
Okay, so also 2015, also a long time ago, we had mixed nationals in Bloemfontein on the military base, and they fed us food that made people sick, and they also didn't have a lot of toilet paper in the bathrooms. But thankfully, I had the habit to always have toilet paper in my bag, so I was okay. I don't know what all the other people did who had jipper guts. Um, but yeah, that is by far the most important thing to have in your bag, because um, you can't hope that tournament organizers are going to have toilet paper for you when they feed you food that makes everyone sick. So yeah, that is a lifesaver for sure. That's number one.
Funny story, I don't think donkeys ate it.
Yeah.
And UCT didn't eat it because we had a game during lunch, and by the time we ate it, it had been sitting in the sun for like 2 hours. So only two of our teammates ate it, and they paid the price for eating it. But the rest of us were fine.
Yeah, I fell ill from the food on the first day. They served the chicken on the second day. That's why it's known as the year of the chicken, by the way. But so I fell actually ill before anyone else in Chile. But yeah, it's not great memories. The WhatsApp group that Chile had for everyone who was ill, to keep each other company during the night, and those kind of things. Good times.
So some other things, of course, that you're gonna have with you is sunscreen because you don't want to burn. There's been far too many stories of people burning on day one of the tournament. You can't play day 2 or 3, because you're just so out of it. Then cleats, and some people recommend wearing 2 pairs of cleats. For me, it depends on how long the tournament is. If I'm playing a 5-day tournament, I almost guarantee take a second pair of cleats so that I can alternate between them, since different shoes give you different blisters and that kind of stuff in different places of your feet, as long as you're used to wearing them. Again, we go back to consistency. You can't buy a new pair of cleats when you arrive at the tournament and expect to be able to wear them at the tournament.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I'll also add the rationale behind having 2 pairs is that if something happens to your main pair, you have a second pair. Cleats just sometimes tear. Someone steps on your heel when you're going out for a high disc, and it tears the sole of your cleat. Those things happen. And if you don't have a second pair of cleats, one, you're either out for the tournament because you can't wear one cleat, and two, you're gonna have to wear someone else's cleats, which is pretty gross. So yeah, much prefer having 2 pairs of cleats. And if you don't have 2 pairs, I'd advise buying a super cheap pair as your backup pair, because they tend to be very comfortable. So you'll be able to get through a tournament with them if you had to fall back to them. But yeah, like you said, the ideal is to have them both broken in, and yeah, you can alternate them if you want.
Then things like extra socks are probably very essential, especially if you have a long break and you take your shoes and socks off, and then you need to put on your old pair of socks that are all sweaty and manky, or if you left them in the sun, they might become really hard. So probably recommend having an extra pair of socks, maybe even 2. Something like an electrolyte replacement, be that Rehydrate, be that anything else that you could use, little sachets, things that people use there. Could you take us through any carbs that you feel that people could have?
I mean, carbs is it's a good question. I don't overthink what I eat at tournaments when it comes to particular food groups and so on. The things I know I do need, one of them is protein. I need salts to replace some of the ones I sweat out, and those kind of things. I mean, for me, mostly it's about energy, which is what you get from carbs, from my understanding. And I look for those from red meat and peanuts and those kind of things. Other people have other things that their bodies need. I've learned over the years what works for me. But also I have a pretty strict diet to begin with, so mine is a little different. What's your thoughts there, Dol?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the Ivies rock up at a tournament with a 2-liter tub of pasta before. And they prepare that in Cape Town and bring it up with them.
Well, it's convenient to have it with you. So.
Yeah, if they're hungry on the plane, they're like, no, we're not going to buy food. We got our pasta already. So I mean that works. That's definitely carbs. Um,
Yes.
I mean, I think that just falls into anything that you can really something substantial that you're gonna have for lunch. You can't just be having a sandwich at a tournament there. That's not gonna be carbs enough. You need to make sure that what you're eating will get you through the day, and carbs generally help with that.
Yeah, I mean, you should be, like Charisse also mentioned in our podcast with her, that you should be eating every hour. You can't wait for lunch before you have food. That's way too late.
And then protein. I mean, I always see you with your little eggs.
Yep.
I don't know.
Chicken eggs.
You got like 7 or 8 in the bag that you just whip out, have one, and there comes another one.
Fabio's been trying to get me to, put an egg in my mouth with the shell on, and then take the shell off of my mouth, and then spit out the shell, and then eat the egg. And he said that would be very intimidating to the other team, but I still don't understand why he wants me to do that.
Have a proper breakfast, but also that includes having food in your bag. If you're playing at 8 a.m. match, you're probably going to be eating at 6:30 in the morning. You should probably have something else, either an hour into your game or just as your game ends.
Yeah, I'll add something there, which is don't force feed yourself. You get up and you're not hungry, don't force yourself to eat, because you're going to struggle to keep that down once the intensity picks up. You get these, forgotten who the manufacturer is, or forget who the manufacturer is, but they're just energy bars basically, but they breakfast bars basically. Those are a great substitute for as you get hungry later on during the morning, because you can have a bite while you're warming up, or you can have a bite in between points or something like that. So, I mean, breakfast is ideal that you have it like you just suggested, but if you're not feeling it, don't force it.
Something like warm clothes is important, which is funny because it's going to be freezing at nationals this year.
Yeah.
And I assume many nationals that that happen in the States and other places, people are playing in long sleeves and that kind of stuff. Just make sure that when you're not on the field, you can keep warm. You don't want to be shivering there waiting for your next match. A hat is extremely important. I mean, the sun's going to beat down on people. You need that. I recommend getting used to playing with a hat on. One, it helps you to see. 2, it keeps the sweat out your eyes. And then, of course, covers your face more from the sun. A disc, because if you don't have a disc, you can't throw. You can't practice before. That's important. And then for the injury prone like me, some kind of tape, or things that work. I mean, tape can even be for your cleat when it rips. So tape is important as well. And then a foam roller. Get the.
I'll just mention. Sorry, go for it, Dom.
I was just gonna say, go get yourself a little one, or what I have is a foam roller that's also a bottle. So by taking that to the tournament, I have both.
It's very convenient of you, or for you. I just want to mention with the tape, I have it listed here as tape and other essentials. That's basically just maintenance. So, I mean, over a tournament, you're gonna graze, going after the disc or those kind of things, and it's important that you have those things at hand that you need to keep you going, so that you don't have an open graze and now you're afraid to go after the disc again or something after and you can't always bank on there being medical staff and so on at a tournament, because they're supposed to be and they will be, but very often they're occupied with other teams and you have a minute or 2 minutes to quickly get something before you have to go on the field again. So it's just to your best benefit to have those things, and again, it's stuff works for you. Some people react to some kind of adhesive for some of the tape. And those are the kind of things you need to know before a tournament, because if you try something new again, you might get a rash or some kind of skin reaction and those kind of things. And all that, again, is stresses on your body and things that distract you from just playing. You just want to focus on playing Frisbee.
So we've packed our bag. We arrive at the tournament. How do we manage that day?
So with you and your micro community, if that is what you use on your team, or whether it's just the entire team, first thing is obviously finding each other, finding your group, and then figuring out what field you're on. Ideally, your leadership will tell you, and then getting ready to warm up. So get your cleats on, get moving. It's going to be cold. We're not expecting it to be wet in Joburg in June, so we hopefully don't have to worry about that. But it's going to be cold, so you want to get moving before the warm-up starts. Get some blood flowing, and basically just prepare yourself for warm-up and make sure you're on the line and ready when the leadership is calling on you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that as well. I think things like filling up your water bottle regularly, often.
I say.
And I mean, by the way, that's a word I just cannot say anyway.
Okay.
You should fill up your water bottle often, especially when you're not playing. Use that opportunity. There are certain games that you can watch and that would be beneficial to watch, or just support, but at the same time make sure that you're getting shade. Quite important through the day, that even though you want to go support people, find a shady spot, find a gazebo, I don't know, bring an umbrella, just try not be in the sun the whole day. And I think just when you're with your team, you're gonna happen to know what's happening. So yeah, I mean, I think everything that you said really covers how to manage your day. I don't think there's anything else we need to add. I see just the last thing to add. I mean, you're there to have fun and that kind of stuff, but your priority is always to play Ultimate. So don't go play a game of Spikeball or throw a disc for half an hour extra or that kind of stuff. I mean, all of your preparing, as in throwing and stuff, should be done unless there's something in particular you want to work on after a game. And Spikeball is just going to take more energy and put you in the sun for longer, and your legs already are going to be taking a beating for that tournament. So really focus on playing Ultimate, and in those times you can socialize or rest or something like that.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, it's the basics. Make sure that you keep your tournament box, your food and those kind of things in the shade and so on. Something else I'll mention, which is maybe not mentioned very often, is that very often we have rituals for our own stretches and our own mobility work and so on. And obviously the team has that too, to get you ready, warmed up for a game. But I often see individuals and teams doing strength work at a tournament rather than doing warm-up work, so doing stretching. Those are two very different things. And just be mindful of that. Sure, you have your rituals on your team or individually of things you need to do to get your body ready to play, but you don't want to be putting more stress on your body than you need to over a tournament weekend. So doing extra strength work, like quad work or whatever the case may be, or glute work or so on with dips and so on. You want to get your body ready to play. You don't want to get stronger because your muscles are breaking down over the weekend anyway. So putting more strain on them is not helping you best perform. So it's just making that mental switch, I think. And then, you mentioned all the good things. Stay in the shade, fill up your bottle, time your bathroom visits well, so it doesn't impact your game time. And keep out of the sun, wear a hat. That's it, really.
Cool. So we finished day one of the tournament. Our legs are tired. Things to do. So what I always do, the thing that I generally start with, is I put my butt as close to a wall as I can. I put my back on the ground and I put my legs up the wall. I do that until all the blood flows out of my toes. Normally they get all tingly, and then I stand up. And from what I know, that helps with lactic acid. That is not scientifically proven. It's just what I know. I mean, it could be scientifically proven, but
there's a few papers I've seen them and send them to people.
There are papers that has been peer reviewed.
So I mean, exactly like you said, that's pretty much what you try and do as an ice bath as well. Those aren't always logistically possible, but what you mentioned is called leg drains. At least that's the term I know, and they work really well. It's a way to just flush in some new blood into those parts of your body too, into the muscles that need repairing overnight as you're sleeping or recovering, and that is one of the better things you can do. And then just loosening up the really tight muscles. Rolling helps with it. There's many people who aren't big fans of rolling. For me personally, I find that it does make a big difference if I roll the night after the first day or every day of a tournament, depending how long the tournament is. So I'm just my muscles are a little better prepared for warm up the next morning. And then it's about spending time with your teammates, proper food, protein and those kind of things, and getting to hang out with your teammates, because that's one of the highlights of a tournament weekend for me.
So what I'm hearing is we're going to Nando's and you're paying.
That's not quite what I was saying. At least it's not Spur. I wouldn't advise spicy food after a day of putting strain on your body, unless you're very used to that, because that could upset your stomach. But
it's fine. I'm gonna get lemon and herb. It's fine.
Lemon herb, yeah, for sure. Whatever your preference is.
Cool. So Heat's meals on you. Thanks, Corn. Anyway, next topic.
I will cut this from the video. Thank you.
Cool. So we played the tournament. We hang out with our team. Now we need to go home. So the flight home, what's important? Obviously, if you win and they give you a medal, you don't take it off. It's very important.
I actually didn't think about that.
Your medal stays on until you have to take it off, so that you feel all the accomplishment and the weight of winning on your shoulders.
Yeah, I agree. And also, whatever trophy, or the one year we got this massive, basically totem pole of a spoon at October in 2015. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to look as out of place at the airport as possible, so everyone stares at you. And it's not because Harley is next to you, who's 6'11". It's because of you're wearing a medal and you're having a trophy and looking like you came out of the bush. But yeah, all of those things are very important. I'll just quickly add something here before you continue, which is it's really important that you pick a flight home which isn't at 5 o'clock. You need to remember we have to drive back all the way from Bronkhorstspruit or wherever. To get to the airport, you need to catch a lift and so on. Don't put that strain on yourself or your teammates. You don't want to have to think about, I need to catch my flight while you're still at the tournament. Give yourself enough leeway and enough time to just enjoy yourself and take a leisurely drive back to the airport before you catch your flight.
Yeah, I've had teammates that have missed the final before.
Yeah.
Whether that be because you didn't expect to be in the final or anything like that. Now you're there and they have to leave. You can't just postpone your flight. So yeah, I agree completely. Book your flight. Look at the time that the tournament ends. If the last match starts at 2, it's probably going to end at 4. There's no way you're going to make it to the airport by 5. So rather take the 7 o'clock flight. Rather get home later than have to miss part of the game. Part of your game, or have to rush home or something like that. In that situation. Other than that, I mean, your flight home it's not as important as the flight there, so you can put what you want in your check-in compared to your hand luggage. It's just about, getting home safely.
Yeah, you just need to make the flight. And then make the Uber.
Sometimes more difficult, depending if the flights are postponed or anything. But it's fine. Most of the time, they're on time.
I forgot about that, actually.
What?
Over the COVID year.
That
the flights can be, yeah.
I mean, I once had to wait 5 hours for a flight. Actually, when I was coming back from Worlds in 2016, we flew through Qatar, we flew with Qatar, and there was a bombing in the airport.
Holy smokes.
As we arrived, so we spent an extra 24 hours in the airport.
Holy crap.
That was a bad time.
That's scary, goodness.
Yeah, it happened pretty much probably half an hour. I think they wouldn't have landed if it happened when we were. So we landed and then it happened, which we didn't actually know. They just kept us on the flight for an extra 2 hours, and then we waited another 20. I think we waited another 18 until we flew. So yeah.
That's very scary.
I've had some experiences.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But for another time. Anyway, that was a great way to forget about the PTD I was having, post-tournament depression. You just spent a great week with your team. You just spent probably playing some great Ultimate, meeting new people at the tournament, whether that be at Worlds or a South African-based tournament. And Now you're sad all the time because you're not playing frisbee and you're used to being around company, and now you have to go to work. I don't actually have a way to deal with that. I just sit in my sadness. What about you, Korn?
Yeah, I mean, the important thing with that is to just see it for what it is. I mean, you've had this weekend of highlights and having a great time. And there's going to be a hangover from that. It's just how it is. So important is to remember that it's going to be more frisbee. So normally we would have had nationals, mixed nationals, end of April over beginning of May.
Would be like, would have ended today.
Really, yeah, actually. And then you would have had to wait until like late July, August before the segregated division started. So hopefully we don't have to wait that long this year, but we'll see. Obviously, COVID dependent, but that's important to remember. There's more frisbee to come, and there's more highlights weekends to come. And then the other thing is to support each other on your team, and there's ways to do that. One, which is common, is your highlights of the weekend. So the week after the tournament, everyone would post numerically what their favorite highlights are of the weekend. And the more random they are and the more inside jokey they are, the better. But the idea is just to remind people of those highlight flashpoints, which were such a great joy to experience during that week, to just ease a bit of the slump that you experience as you're back to reality.
Yeah, so UCT used to do 10 per person. And then I came to Chile, and suddenly in my inbox had like 1,000 emails, and the number of highlights got to like 1,000 because people were, one, repeating, and two, just saying anything like Cornet threw his first rinky dink, which is the throw where you like spin it around your finger, and he did that for a score. Weird things like that came up.
That is weird.
I mean, don't you remember? You did it.
That's technically illegal, I think.
I mean, if it didn't leave your hand, if it's like,
if it's spinning around your finger, did it not leave your hand?
We're gonna have to check the rules.
Yeah. We found a loophole.
Or that time that you threw it behind your back through someone's legs. Stuff like that happens.
That would be quite impressive.
That would be in my top 10. But I mean, yeah, things like that happen. I mean, that's something that's helped me before, and something that you can go back and look at and see what you did at different nationals, depending on the way that it was stored. I mean, other things is to not just, cold turkey ultimate. You could try to do something with your team afterwards. Very often after nationals, it's just everything is gone. So, try actually do something with your team again, just because the mixed season is finished, or the open season, or whatever you're playing. Just because that's done doesn't mean you don't have to go, you can't, do things as your team again.
Sure. Yeah, you can have, an end of season social and have some awards and those kind of things. Those do go down pretty well too. It's also another thing to look forward to.
Fans.
And fines, yeah.
What I learned, so when I arrived at Chile, I was like, oh yeah, these people don't drink, and these people don't do these things. So let's have fines, but everyone bring chocolate milk. This is what I said. Little did I know, Sammy rocks up with his, whiskey, and he's like, no, I don't want to drink chocolate milk. I'm going to have some proper, and someone else on the team was like, yeah, why aren't we having drinks? And I was like, okay, cool. Way to make me feel like a child.
Hey, so it's Sammy's fault. That's what I heard.
Anyway, so...
Yeah, I'll just add quickly regarding fines meetings. Viking probably had the most intellectual fines meetings I've ever been to, because it would always end up with like Matt playing piano for everyone, Matt Dennis being a professional musician or something of the like, and basically whipping out any song you could think of, from the thousands he has mapped in his mind. It was great. It was also quite different and interesting.
I mean, I've been to some raucous ones as well, like with UCT back in the day. People doing shoeies where you put alcohol in a shoe and then you drink it from there. I'm pretty sure someone mama birded someone once.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, but just do things with your team. Don't just stop right there. But anyway, so for our last point, I mean, it's nothing but really just get your body back to what it should be. Probably after a tournament, you're going to be all scratched up, and you need a heal, otherwise you can't wear your work clothes. So it's just start that process. I get work from home, makes that easier. I don't have to go to work all scratched up and be asked lots of questions. And just don't completely stop Ultimate.
Yeah, don't completely stop looking after yourself physically. I mean, you want to be eating well so your body can recover quickly, and also make sure you do your mobility work, your stretching and wider foam rolling, whatever you do normally during that week after the tournament, because that will also help you mentally, because you won't be as sore for so long.
If it's a Worlds here as well, and if you're a part of one of those teams, this is only your first peak, which is something important to remember. You will probably taper for a while and then head on the upwards again. So it's not just, oh, I can now be done. It's, oh, I should probably be able to go to the gym after 3 days. So use that short period that you have to relax, recover anything that you can, and then get back to it, because all these things are just small peaks in a bigger picture very often, and it's about continuing to build.
Yeah, I mean, if WGC did happen this year, is a good point. Our final training camp for the badges would have happened the weekend after nationals. Because otherwise, if we had it a weekend later, I think most people would either have already started traveling, because that would be a weekend before, it's too late. So that would have been pretty tough, actually.
Oh my word, there would be so many broken people at that training camp still.
Because it's too late. I mean, June, goodness, no, late June as well. I mean, normally you have all of May and June to prepare a Worlds team after nationals, which we would not have had this year with nationals being so late. So all the honey badges, you don't have to worry about that.
Imagine still having all your scars, and I know that last training camp would have been just playing teams. I would have refused to lay out. I would have just been like, sorry, Korn. Do you want my body to recover for Worlds?
Yeah, well, I think, and that's something I've been thinking about a lot too recently, is we need to find a better system of taping up for laying out and that kind of thing. Because, I mean, you can't, or the number of fields we get to play on, especially in South Africa, where you're not going to get grazed and so on from laying out, are very limited. So yeah, we need to find ways where we can patch ourselves up better than we are at the moment, so you don't have this when you lay out.
I guess the problem is that even if you put something on that, you end up getting friction burn.
I mean, if you put, well, it really depends on where you are in the recovery of it. If it's still oozing and so on, it's a wound, so you need to treat it that way. But there's ways to get around it. I mean, cyclists, when they come down, say the tour cyclists, the road guys, when they come off a bike, obviously it's almost always quite serious because you're hitting tarmac. They get patched up while they're still on the bike by the team car, and they ride for the rest of the tour. I mean, if it's the Tour de France or something, that's another week or however long the tour is these days. So they figure out a way to get around that, and these are professional athletes, so I'm sure we can do that too.
Agreed.
But yeah, you don't have to worry about that this year. And yeah, like you rightly said, it would have been a tournament simulation weekend, so we would have been playing a lot of teams. That was the plan.
Cool. Well, I think that's pretty much our list of essentials for any tournament that you're going to go to, given it be a Worlds tournament or it's a international tournament or even just a pickup tournament that you go to. It's still important to look after your body to make sure that you can play through the whole thing and that you're not going to come back and be sick afterwards.
Sick of Ultimate. I think it's if there's anything we missed, which is definitely possible, make sure that you guys let us know what that is, because we can also learn from this.
Yeah, 100%. Put it down in the comments. We'll pin it or something like that so other people can see it. Thanks everyone for listening to episode number 10 of Dishy Switch. We really enjoyed just speaking about what to do during a tournament, some other weird stories that we've had about tournaments. Never forget the toilet paper story.
And the year of the chicken, 2015.
And anything else that we feel is important building up to your tournament and having the best experience that you can have. We hope to see all of you soon. Enjoy the rest of your weeks.
Cheers.